This woman was 59 years old, standing in the kitchen of a public housing unit with the lights shut off because she couldn't cover the bill. Her name was Mary. She had been on government welfare for over a decade, eating canned food, wearing the same 3 outfits on rotation, and watching every single dollar disappear before it even touched her palm. She had no savings account. She had no credit score worth mentioning. She had no husband, no co-signer, no inheritance, and no wealthy relative to call in a crisis. Everything the financial system had ever told her said that a woman in her position had exactly one future: staying poor and dependent on the government until she died. And then, 4 years later, a mortgage company handed her the keys to her own home. Not a rental, not transitional housing. Her home. Hers. With her name on the deed. And here is the part that will make you stop scrolling. She did it with $10. Not 10,000, not 1,000, $10. A method so absurdly simple that banks don't teach it, financial advisors don't mention it, and the government certainly isn't putting it in any pamphlet. But Mary found it, and it changed everything. Before I go any further, I need to ask you something. If you have ever felt like the system was designed to keep you exactly where you are, like no matter how hard you worked or how carefully you budgeted, the finish line just kept moving further away, then this story is for you. Hit that like button right now, because this channel exists to tell the stories that nobody else is telling. And if you are not subscribed yet, do it before this video ends, because we drop stories like Mary's every single week. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what state you are in. Are you in Texas, Georgia, Ohio, California, Florida? Let us know where you are watching from, because this community is everywhere, and it is growing. And if you know someone who needs to hear Mary's story, share this video with them today. You might be changing their life. Mary grew up in rural Tennessee, the kind of town where the gas station doubles as the grocery store and everyone knows your name, but nobody knows your bank balance. She married young, at 22, to a man named Daniel, who worked in logistics for a regional trucking company. They were not rich, but they were stable. They had a small house they rented on the edge of town, a beat-up Chevy they shared, and 2 kids they raised on love and discipline, and not much else. For 30 years, that was enough. Then Daniel had a stroke at 57 and was gone in 4 days. Mary was 51 years old, a widow with no college degree, no career history of her own, and a body so worn down by years of caregiving that she had developed a chronic pain condition that made full-time work nearly impossible. Within 18 months of Daniel's death, she had burned through what little savings they had on funeral costs, medical bills that insurance only partially covered, and the everyday expenses that do not pause for grief. She applied for Social Security survivor benefits, SNAP, and Section 8 housing. The government approved her for a subsidized unit in a low-income complex in Memphis. The median income for a household like hers in public housing sat around $17,000 a year. That was her world now. A 2-room apartment with thin walls, a parking lot full of broken glass, and a government check that arrived on the first of every month like a clock she had never wanted to own. Mary was the kind of woman people looked through rather than at. In the waiting room of the welfare office, she was invisible. At the bus stop, she was invisible. Standing in line at the dollar store with her SNAP card, counting items before she got to the register, she was invisible. And because nobody was watching her, she started watching everyone else. She noticed things. She noticed that her neighbor in Unit 12, who drove a late-model SUV and wore fresh sneakers, was always broke by the 15th of the month. She noticed that her caseworker, who earned a real salary with benefits, complained endlessly about never having enough. And then she started noticing something else, something she had never been taught to see. The top 20% of earners in this country account for nearly 60% of all consumer spending. The wealthiest 1% control over $31 trillion in wealth, almost as much as the bottom 90% combined. And yet, nobody in Mary's world was teaching her how any of that machinery actually worked. The system, she realized, did not need her to understand it. It needed her to stay confused, stay dependent, and stay quiet. That realization did not break her. It woke her up. It was a Tuesday in February when everything broke at once. Mary remembered the exact date because she had circled it in the little paper calendar she kept on the refrigerator door with a magnet shaped like a pineapple that her daughter had given her years ago. February 11th. The electric company had sent a disconnection notice. Not a warning, a notice, meaning the decision had already been made, the countdown had already started, and the only question left was how many days she had before the apartment went dark. She sat at the kitchen table and laid out every single bill she had: power, water, her prepaid cell phone plan, which was her only connection to her kids, to her doctors, to the outside world. The liability insurance on the old Ford Escort she kept in the lot, the car she could not afford to repair but also could not afford to lose, because without it, she had no way to get to her medical appointments across town. She lined them all up like enemies she had been fighting one at a time and losing. The total, after she added everything up on the back of an envelope with a pen she had to shake twice to get working, was $412 a month. On a fixed income that left her roughly $60 for everything else after rent. Food, toiletries, over-the-counter medication, bus fare for the days the car would not start. $60. Some months it was $58. Some months it was $43. There was no math in the world that made that work, and she had been trying to solve that equation for 8 years. She put her head down on the table. Not dramatically, not like a woman in a movie. Just the slow, exhausted collapse of a person who has run out of ideas and has nowhere left to fall. She stayed like that for a long time, long enough for the room to get dark around her. And then she picked up the phone. Not to call her daughter, not to call a hotline. She picked up the phone and called the electric company. She had no plan. She had no script. She had read somewhere, on a Facebook post someone had shared in a neighborhood group, that you could sometimes negotiate your utility bills if you called and explained your situation. That companies had hardship programs most people never knew existed because nobody advertised them. She did not have high hopes. She was 53 years old, and she had been humiliated by bureaucratic systems too many times to feel much hope about anything. But she made the call anyway. She waited on hold for 11 minutes. When the representative picked up, Mary spoke slowly and honestly. She said she was a widow on a fixed income. She said she had been a paying customer for 6 years without a single missed payment until this year. She said she was not calling to complain. She was calling because she needed help, and she was not too proud to ask for it. She asked if there was any program, any discount, any arrangement at all that could bring her monthly bill down. Just a little. Even $10 would help. The representative put her on hold again. Then she came back and said that Mary qualified for a low-income assistance rate she had never been told about, one that reduced her bill by $12 a month going forward. $12. It was almost nothing. But Mary sat very still after she hung up the phone, because something had just shifted inside her that she could not fully name yet. She called the water company the next morning. She used the exact same words: widow, fixed income, loyal customer, just asking for help. Even $10 would make a difference. The representative found her a seniors and low-income discount program that knocked $9 off her monthly bill. That same afternoon, she called her cell phone carrier. They moved her to a government-assisted plan called Lifeline that she had qualified for all along and simply never been told existed. Her phone bill dropped by $14 a month. She called her car insurance company on a Thursday. She mentioned her clean driving record, her age, and her financial situation. She asked about any discount she might be missing. The agent found a paperless billing discount and a low mileage rate adjustment because she drove under 5,000 miles a year. Combined reduction, $11 a month. Mary sat with a new piece of paper that evening. She wrote down each number: 12, 9, 14, 11. She added them up. $46 a month in recurring savings, fabricated out of nothing but 4 phone calls and the willingness to say out loud that she needed help. She stared at that number for a long time, and then she named it. She called it the $10 method, because every call she made had the same single target: find $10 somewhere. Not 50, not 100, just 10. $10 that she had not had before. $10 that the system had been collecting from her without her knowledge or consent because she had never thought to question it. The rule was simple enough to fit on a single index card, which is exactly where she wrote it. Call every company that sends you a bill, explain your situation with dignity, and ask for exactly $10 back. That is all. No threats, no drama. Just the question, asked plainly, by a woman who had decided she was done being invisible. She put the $46 into a state-backed individual development account she found through a local nonprofit, a matched savings program for low-income residents that she had discovered while looking up resources online late one night. The program matched every dollar she saved toward housing at a 2-to-1 ratio. She told nobody. She did not want advice. She did not want skepticism. She had enough of her own. I want to stop here for just a moment because I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, this sounds too convenient, too clean, too much like a story someone made up to get views. I hear you. But the individual development account program Mary used is real. It is federally recognized, and it has helped tens of thousands of low-income Americans build savings they would never have accumulated otherwise. The phone call negotiation tactics she used are documented, proven, and available to anyone willing to make the call. None of this was invented. None of this was luck. If this story is hitting close to home for you right now, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a story like this one. And I need you to do something else. Scroll down to the comments and tell me your biggest financial wall right now. The one thing that feels completely immovable. Drop it right there. Because what is coming next in Mary's story might be the answer you did not know you were looking for. Month 1. Mary deposited $46 into her IDA account. She did it on a Friday afternoon at a community development office 12 minutes from her apartment, sitting across from a caseworker named Patricia, who explained the matching structure with the patience of someone who had seen too many people walk out that door and never come back. For every dollar Mary saved toward homeownership, the program would match it 2-to-1. Mary did not let herself get excited. She had been handed paperwork full of promises before. She folded the enrollment form, put it in her purse, and walked home. Month 2. She deposited $46 again. The balance with matching funds was $276. She wrote the number on the index card where she had written the rules of the $10 method, and she taped it to the inside of the kitchen cabinet door so she would see it every morning when she reached for her instant coffee. She told no one. Month 3 was when something unexpected happened. She was reviewing her car insurance renewal online when she noticed a bundling option she had never explored. She called the company, used the same method, the same plain, honest language, the same $10 target, and walked away with a new adjustment that brought her total monthly savings from bill negotiations up to $53. She deposited the full amount. By month 6, her IDA balance, including the 2-to-1 match, had reached $1,602. She had never in her adult life seen that number in a savings account with her name on it. She sat in her car in the parking lot of the credit union and looked at the balance on the printed receipt for a full 3 minutes. Then she drove home and made dinner. The mental shift did not happen all at once. It happened the way a fracture spreads through glass, quietly and then completely. Around the 8th month, Mary noticed she had stopped dreading the first of the month. The government check still arrived. The bills still came, but they no longer felt like a wall. They felt like a negotiation she already knew she was going to win. She started sleeping through the night for the first time in years. By the end of month 12, her IDA savings stood at $540 of her own money, matched to $1,080 in program funds, for a combined total of $1,620 in her homeownership account. She had also, in the span of that year, completed the required 8 hours of financial literacy counseling that the IDA program mandated, and for the first time in her life, she understood the difference between a fixed rate and an adjustable rate mortgage. She understood what a debt-to-income ratio was. She understood that her Social Security survivor benefit, modest as it was, counted as verifiable income for certain loan products. She called Patricia at the nonprofit and asked a question she had rehearsed 3 times before dialing. Was there any loan program for someone in her situation? A widow on fixed income with a small but growing savings account and a Section 8 housing voucher. Patricia told her about the HUD Housing Choice Voucher Homeownership Program, which allowed current Section 8 recipients to convert their rental subsidy into mortgage assistance, applying the same monthly voucher toward a mortgage payment instead of rent. Mary would still pay approximately 30% of her monthly income toward housing. The voucher would cover the rest, for up to 15 years. She was quiet on the phone for a moment. Then she asked Patricia how long the application process typically took. At month 18, Mary had saved $940 of her own money into the IDA account. With the 2-to-1 match, her total usable down payment contribution had reached $2,820. Combined with a small first-time homebuyer grant her housing counselor identified through a local community development financial institution, her total available funds for closing costs and down payment were just over $7,000. It was not a fortune, but in the Tennessee town an hour outside Memphis, where she had begun researching properties, there were modest single-family homes, 3 bedrooms, small yards, quiet streets, listed between $90,000 and $110,000. Homes within the limits the Housing Choice Voucher Program would accept. Her daughter found out the night Mary called to ask if she would come to the loan signing. There was a long silence on the line. Then her daughter said, "Mom, are you serious?" And Mary said, "I am going to need you to take a day off work." That was all she said. The mortgage was approved on a Thursday. Mary was 57 years old. She had been on welfare for 6 years, and a lender had just agreed to give her the keys to a 3-bedroom house with a yard and a porch where she could sit in the morning and drink her coffee without hearing anyone else's television through the wall. The neighbors in her public housing complex, the ones who had watched her come and go in her old Escort for years without ever asking where she was headed, did not know that the quiet woman in Unit 7 had just done something the system had spent decades telling her was impossible. Mary did not hold a meeting. She did not start a group chat. She did not post anything online. What happened instead was quieter than that, and because of that, it was more powerful. It started with her neighbor Diane. Diane was 44 years old, a home health aide working part-time hours because her agency had cut shifts, a mother of 2 teenagers, and a woman who had been on the Section 8 waiting list for 3 years before finally getting placed in the same complex as Mary. She knocked on Mary's door one evening in early spring, about 2 weeks after word had started to drift through the hallways that Mary was moving out, that she had somehow gotten a mortgage, that the quiet woman in Unit 7 was leaving for a house with a yard. Diane asked plainly, "How did you do it?" Mary made 2 cups of instant coffee and explained everything, not as a guru, not as someone handing down wisdom from above, just as a neighbor, sitting at a kitchen table, reading from an index card. The $10 method. Every bill, every company. Ask with dignity. Ask for exactly $10. And then take what they give you and put it somewhere it can grow. Diane wrote it all down on the back of a receipt from the dollar store. 6 weeks later, Diane called Mary to report that she had negotiated her electric bill down by $11, her internet service down by $15 after threatening to cancel, and had switched her cell phone carrier to a Lifeline-assisted plan that saved her $18 a month. $44 a month in recovered money she had never thought to claim. She had enrolled in an IDA program through a nonprofit in her county and made her first deposit. She told Mary, "I felt like I found money in a coat I forgot I owned." Then there was Rosa, 51, who worked the overnight shift at a hospital laundry facility and shared a 2-bedroom apartment with her adult son. Rosa heard about Mary from Diane. She was skeptical in the particular way of someone who has been disappointed by systems so many times that hope itself feels like a trap. She sat with the index card for 3 weeks before making the first call. When she finally did, the gas company told her she had been eligible for a low-income rate reduction for 2 years and had simply never been enrolled. They applied it retroactively for 60 days. Her bill dropped by $22 a month. Rosa did not need any more convincing after that. She enrolled in the IDA program. She started attending the required financial literacy workshops, and she dragged her son along to 2 of them because she said he needed to hear it more than she did. Within 4 months, she had saved $216 of her own money, matched to $432 in program funds, sitting in an account no creditor could touch. Then there was Linda, 38, who had heard about the method third hand from a woman she barely knew at her kids' school. Linda was in a different situation from Mary and Diane and Rosa. She was not on Section 8. She rented a small house privately, paid too much for it, and had been quietly drowning in a combination of credit card debt and a car note that was barely manageable. The $10 method was not going to fix her structural debt problem, but it gave her something she had not had in years, a sense of agency. She made her calls. She recovered $61 a month in bill reductions. She used 40 of it to make extra payments toward her smallest credit card balance, following a debt reduction sequence her IDA financial counselor had outlined for her. She used the remaining 21 to start a small emergency fund, the first she had ever had in her adult life. What these women had in common was not their age, or their income, or their specific circumstances. What they had in common was that nobody had ever sat them down and told them the system had cracks in it that they were allowed to reach through. Nobody had told them that the companies collecting their money every month had hardship programs, loyalty discounts, and income-based rate reductions sitting in their internal systems, available to anyone willing to ask, advertised to no one. The information existed. It had always existed. It was just never delivered to the people who needed it most. Mary was not a financial advisor. She was not a life coach. She was a 59-year-old woman who had figured something out at her kitchen table in the dark, and who had made enough cups of instant coffee for enough neighbors to watch something shift quietly in the hallways of a building the rest of the city had long stopped thinking about. Mary moved into her house on a Saturday in October. Her daughter drove down from Nashville with her 2 grandkids and a box of cleaning supplies. Her son came from across town with a second-hand kitchen table he had found on Facebook Marketplace. They ate pizza on the floor of the empty living room because there was no furniture yet, and Mary sat with her back against the wall and looked at the ceiling of a room that belonged to her and did not say very much. Later that night, after everyone had gone, she sat alone on the porch steps in the dark and thought about a number. Not the mortgage number, not the IDA balance, a different number. 12 million. That is roughly how many Americans take out payday loans every year, generating $9 billion in fees annually for lenders who are structurally designed to profit from the financial desperation of people who have no other options.
$9 billion extracted from the most financially vulnerable people in this country every single year, as reliably as the season.
She had almost been one of those people. She had come close to a payday loan during one of her worst winters. She had stood outside one of those storefronts with the neon signs and the handwritten hours, and she had thought about walking in. She had not. But she understood with complete clarity why people did. Here is what Mary had learned that no financial advisor had ever told her, that no government pamphlet had ever printed, and that no bank had any financial incentive to explain. The system was not broken. It was working exactly as designed. It was designed to collect fees from the people least able to afford them. It was designed to offer rewards, rate reductions, and hardship programs to the customers educated and assertive enough to ask for them, while quietly billing everyone else at the standard rate. Big U.S. banks generated approximately $9 billion annually from overdraft fees alone. Banking and transaction fees were widening the wealth gap by an estimated 1.5 percentage points every year, with fees contributing directly to the income growth of the top 1%. The consumers who paid cash or used debit cards, meaning the lower-income households, were effectively subsidizing credit card reward programs for wealthy customers through fees built into the prices of everyday goods. Not because of malice, because of architecture. Because the system had been built brick by brick over decades to move money upward, quietly and continuously, from the people with the least to the people with the most. The $10 method was not a trick. It was not a hack. It was not a secret that Mary had uncovered through genius or luck. It was the basic act of asking a question that the system had counted on her never asking. That was the whole thing. That was the entire dangerous truth sitting at the center of her story. The money was already there. It had been there all along, sitting in the gap between the rate she was being charged and the rate she was actually entitled to. Between the bill she was paying and the hardship program she qualified for and had never been told existed. Between the savings account she had never opened and the matched deposit the government was prepared to make on her behalf if she ever showed up to claim it. The system did not fail Mary. The system performed exactly as intended. It assumed she would not ask. It assumed she would not know. It assumed she would stay exactly where she was, paying full price for everything, saving nothing, building nothing. Because people in her position did not build things. That was the story the system told about her, and about Diane, and about Rosa, and about Linda, and about every woman sitting in a subsidized apartment somewhere in this country right now, adding up bills on the back of an envelope with a pen she has to shake twice to get working. Mary's house had a porch. Every morning she drank her coffee out there and watched the neighborhood wake up. She was not wealthy. She was not free from financial strain. But she owned the ground beneath her feet. And she had gotten there with $46 a month, a matched savings program, 4 phone calls, and the decision to stop being invisible. Here is what Mary's story actually teaches, stripped of everything else. The money you need to change your life may already be leaving your bank account every single month, silently, automatically, because nobody ever told you to question it. Not $10,000, not a windfall, not a lucky break. $10. Found once, then again, then again. Stacked quietly, matched by a program that has existed for decades and that most people who qualify for have never heard of. The first step is not complicated. This week, pick one bill, just one. Call the company, tell them your situation honestly, and ask if there is any discount, hardship program, or rate reduction you qualify for. Ask for $10. That is the entire entry point. If they say no, thank them and call the next one. One of them will say yes. And when they do, find your nearest IDA program through the Administration for Children and Families website, or your local nonprofit community action agency and put that money somewhere it can be matched and grown. That is the whole method. That is what a 59-year-old widow figured out at a kitchen table in Memphis with a pen she had to shake twice to get working. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss a story like this one. Share this video with someone who needs it today, someone in your family, someone in your neighborhood, someone you know who is counting bills on the back of an envelope and running out of room. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the one bill you are calling first? This community reads every single comment. We are here, and we are building something together.